Honorable Speaker, Honorable Mudavadi.
As we proceed, you keep your eye on that clock. When it hits 0, our time will be up.
Thank you, Honorable.
10 minutes to 0, we will give the nominee an opportunity to make some closing remarks, some closing statements.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Musalia, on your page 4 of the document that you submitted on self-declaration, you indicate on potential conflict of interest that you have none. And the question that follows after that is for you to explain how you would resolve any potential conflict of interest. And looking at your net worth and the schedule that you have submitted, I see you have interest in an aircraft and exclusive air services. You have property on Riverside. I believe this is what you're getting rental income from, and other office space that you have also indicated, 3 properties, offices owned by Triton Limited. Supposing the government of Kenya that if you are approved, you'll be serving under, list any of these properties, or one of the government institutions wanted to use this aircraft that you own, would that portend potential conflict of interest, and how then would you deal with that?
Mr. Chairman, clearly there are procedures. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, clearly there are procedures that are in law that would make sure that there is a public disclosure or full disclosure under such circumstances if they did arise. But Mr. Speaker, I would also want to state that there are processes that would have to be followed legally, and I would not in any way interfere with such a process if it were to arise. Secondly, I would not use my position in public to try and interfere with that. I would really stick to the issues required in terms of integrity as required by law and the Constitution, so that any conflict that would arise would then not have to arise.
Honorable Wandai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have got 2 questions in quick succession. One, the Honorable Mudavadi, and following or notwithstanding the ruling by the Speaker a while ago, you obviously know that in the coalition agreement that you entered into within the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, you did appreciate the fact that the position to which you have been nominated did not exist. Or does not exist even as we speak. And that's why in that agreement there was a commitment that within 30 days a legislation shall be introduced in Parliament to provide greater legal clarity on the position, roles and functions of Prime Cabinet Secretary. That is at Article 21K of that agreement. I happen to have gone through it in the House after being tabled by my friend Honorable Kimani Chungwa. It goes ahead to say that the legislation to be introduced shall amend the National Government Coordination Act to include the office of Prime Cabinet Secretary as proposed hearing to the existing structures under the aforesaid Act. Do you understand it? Doesn't this really confirm that without such legislation having been introduced, now more than 30 days since the election, the position to which you are being proposed or recommended or nominated is anchored on quicksand, constitutionally speaking? That is one. 2, you were asked a while back if you have been mentioned in any corruption case or scandal, and I listened to your answers. But let me jog your memory, Honorable Mudavadi. On the civil case number 280 of 2007, that is the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission versus Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi. In this matter, you are being accused of having fraudulently acquired property in Woodley Estate in Nairobi, property that belonged to the public, a property that was under the care of the Nairobi County Council then. This property is reference number LR number 209-13-539/129. What do you have to say about this? And if indeed it is true that you participated in what Kenyans would love to call grabbing of public property, public land, how does that fit with the requirements under Chapter 6 of the Constitution? That if by any chance you are approved, you will be swearing to protect and adhere to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with that very point. This is the Woodley Estate. Woodley Estate is a property that belongs to now the county government of Nairobi. And I want to put it very clearly here that I stayed in Woodley, and our family has always had that premises. Now, I want to put it on record that to this day, we pay rent to the county government of Nairobi. At no time has that property ever been transferred. I want to put it on record here that the ethics or the Kenya Anti-Corruption body at that time went on a tangent that they had not verified the facts. I ended up also seeking legal redress for defamation on their part and for them having given out misleading information. Mr. Speaker and Mr. Chairman, as we speak today, the same property belongs to the county government of Nairobi, and we pay rent. I will not be paying rent for a property that is personally mine. And therefore, I was not involved in any land grabbing whatsoever. The records are there, and I can request that even this committee can go further and seek whatever evidence they wish from the county government of Nairobi on that particular issue. And hopefully it will also be put to rest, because it was, in my view, a witch hunt at that time. Mr. Chairman, I also want to say that it is on the coalition agreement. It is true that the founding members of Kenya Kwanza, that is Amani National Congress, a party that I belong to, but I'm no longer the party leader, the Ford Kenya, Mr. Chairman, you happen to be a member of that party, and of course the UDA party, headed by the President of the Republic of Kenya. We did enter into a coalition agreement, which we submitted to the Registrar of Political Parties, and it is a valid legal coalition document. Mr. Speaker, when we were forming government, we were alive to the fact that there are issues that can be done and executed by the President through the executive order. And these are now being manifested through Executive Order number 1. Now, the streamlining and clarity that we spoke about would be those that will help in refining the mechanisms of coordination of they do not in any way negate the fact that the President, constitutionally and in accordance with the Coordination Act, has the powers to set up his government and assign functions, and this is under Section 132 of the Constitution, assign functions to his cabinet secretaries or to other persons in government in a constitutional manner to assist him in the delivery of services and leading the country. So I believe that we have not breached any law, and when we talked about looking at the Coordination Act was in the context of strengthening that Coordination Act and not necessarily saying that it is an impediment.
Honorable Naisula.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable Musalia, you have been a fierce critic of the previous regime and especially on matters corruption. And if the recent events by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution to withdraw cases of corruption are anything to go by, how do you intend to fight corruption in public service when it is clear that there is no political will to fight it? And what are your views on the withdrawal of these corruption cases and why at this particular time?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
For your answer,
yes.
Honorable members, we did agree as a matter of procedure that you lift your tongue and not your hand. So you wait when the member has finished, the nominee has finished, then you lift your tongue. It makes it easier for the media and for us here. What we can do, if you have a pen and paper, Honorable Mudavadi, we can take 2, 3, 4 questions, then you can be able to answer. Okay, so raise your tags. Number 1 is Naisula. Number 2 is Robert Mbui. Number 4 is Mejaraso. Number 5 is Emase. Then after that, we'll go another round. So know your number when one, and I encourage you to ask one question each.
So I can deal with that one first, and then we come to the second.
Yeah, deal with that, then the rest will follow in the manner we have given the numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to say that, first of all, I need to appreciate, and we all ought to appreciate, that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution is an independent office, and we have no oversight over that office. It is independent and it makes its own decisions. So the details and circumstances of why he would drop cases, I think that office would be best suited to respond to it directly. But going forward, I think one of the things that we want to point out is that in the fight against corruption, I think we should move away from any attempt to weaponize or to try and use such battles against corruption for political purposes. So, Mr. Chairman, I am so refrained to comment in detail because, as I said, the DPP office would be best suited to respond to this. But I think going into the future, it should be clear that whenever we are dealing with corruption, we must avoid anything that is a witch hunt, anything that is politically instigated, and we must be sticklers of the law. And going forward, I think what is important is through Parliament to see how independent institutions within the justice system, and of course those that handle other matters, are properly resourced so that they can do their work without any fear or favor whatsoever. Thank you.
You'll record the next 4 questions and then answer them in the